Here we have Painter, and one of the first things that we get when we start the software is our welcome screen. And the welcome screen allows us to not only have all the news from Painter, but as well to be opening and creating a new file. So you can just create a new file, or you can open an already existent file, or maybe you can just grab a file that you were working before. You have the possibility as well to change the screen from Painter. So you have the standard screen, which is what we're going to be seeing at the first time we open Painter. Or we would be able to open something even more simple if, for example, you're going to let your kids work on your computer, which I would not really recommend, but this would be a possibility as well, just to have really very simple tools so that you are really reduced on everything you can be using here. We're going to be using something a little bit more complex. So you have here possibilities for, like, for example, photo art and illustration, concept art, manga, and so on. So I'll just go to classic. We're going to see that we are going to have here the navigator, which I never use. So it's really very individual if you're going to want to be working with this. I have first my colors. We have here in Painter 3 different options of colors, which I'm going to be explaining to you in an extra color tutorial. We have the layers, and we have channels. And of course we have all the possibilities from the different tools we have on the site. And one thing that I really like to have open, go under window, I like to have the last 10 different tools I have been working with. And this one that I just opened, the last 10 tools that I was working with, I like to have it here on the top list. So I'll just go up with it till I have this little blue bar, and then I can let it go, and it's going to be clicking here on the top. This is more or less what I would recommend from the welcome screen. We have as well some tutorials and tricks. We have the upgrading, the news from Painter if you would like to be updated. So you can check as well some different illustrators and what they do with Painter. I'm going to be closing this, and I'll start working with you about opening files and saving them. So we just saw before the resolution. I'm going to open a new file. We have already the size that we were working before, 10 by 10 centimeters on 300 pixels per inch. So I have this file now open, I think 3 times already. So I'm just closing this once. And I'm going to be never working on the first layer that Painter gives me. So I'm always going to be working on an extra layer, so on the first one or the other ones that I'm going to be opening afterwards. And I'm going to explain why. The first layer is always a layer which is with this white background. I cannot delete the first layer. I cannot work without having white background. I can make it invisible. This is a possibility. But if I would like to be working with transparency, or if I would like to just select a part of the layer that I worked on, it's not really possible. So just try to avoid the first layer. We're going to be using it for different other things which are necessary if you're going to create a brush or so. But if you're just starting an illustration, just let the first layer free. Don't work on it. Open a new one, and then we can start painting. So let me say I'm just bringing up some colors in here, and I'll just say, well, I think this is nice. I would start saving it. I go to Ablage, Sichern, or save it, and I'll just select a place that I know I'm going to find it again. So my images. And we can see that here at first we have a RIF file. So working with a RIF file means that every single information or everything I have in Painter is going to be active, and I won't have any trouble with it. The only problem is that most of our graphics does not have the possibility of opening a RIF file. And in Painter you have the chance to save it as a Photoshop file, as a TIFF file, PNG, JPEG, GIF, Targa, Windows, and so on. But remember that as a TIFF file it's not compressed, but at the same time the TIFF saved in Painter does not have layers. So if you would like to keep the layers and you would like to be working in different softwares, like usually I work between Painter and Photoshop, or I could be working between Painter and Affinity, I would prefer to have this saved as a Photoshop file. But nevertheless, there are a few layers which are not compatible. So just be aware of it. We're going to see compatibility between the different files later. But in my class, it would be great for you to start working with the RIF file so that everything that you need in using this software is going to be working 100%. So I'll just keep it as a RIF file. I just selected the place I would like to save it on my images, and I'm going to give this file a name, test.rif, and we have the possibilities here to leave the information of which kind of file it is. So this is very important. Unkomprimiert, we don't need to select that at first. We have as well a color profile, which is important to have always in your any kind of file or image you work with. You need any kind of color profile so that you can know or have a ground to hold if you need to pass this information somewhere else, so that I get the same kind of colors you're using. And Kleinbuchstaben, this is really not necessary. So just if you want it, it's going to be giving your file name with a smaller, not capital letters. Okay, saving this once. I have the possibility of continue working on it. Beautiful colors, a bit too bright. And I can save it again. I have two possibilities of saving this again, just saving it with another name. So instead of test, I can say step. Oops. So again, refile. And if I continue working on it, and if you'd like to be taking this as an animation afterwards to import in another animation tool, you have the possibilities of saving this as an interactive saving. So you get step 001. If I continue painting and I go again to interactive saving, interactive saving, you get step 002 and so on. So if I go now to my images and I check it out, I have the step 001, step 002. It's going to be giving this number always in order, so that you don't really need to know which one was the last one, and just see which was the highest number, and you know which is the last version of your file. Okay, it happens a lot when you say final, and by the end we say final 1, 2, 3. The 1, 2, 3 he would be doing then by himself. You wouldn't need to remember which was the last number you were working with. Painter gives as well the possibility of making a backup file. So while you're working on your file, he would just at a certain point produce a BAK file. I would recommend you guys to leave the backup file during the time you're working on the file, and at the end, when you close everything and you close the software and you know it's saved, it's okay, throw the backup file into the trash bin, so that you don't take the backup file for any case back to start working on it again, because it's not the file that has the very last moment of the file. You just saved the backup maybe a few minutes before you closed it. So maybe you don't really have the last step that you put on the file while you were working with it. And it's just going to start trashing your computer. So throw the backup files away when you're done, when you're sure that the file you were working on is saved and is good. Okay, so we're going to continue in the next tutorial.